Hello everybody, my name is Scott Boland from Metalogic Support. Today I'm going to be introducing the backup part of the Metavis platform, and I'm going to go through the steps through creating a backup as well as scheduling a backup and using the restore function. And I'll start from selecting a site from the Navigator pane from whatever location that you want, whether it be site collection, site level, library level. You can either right click on the site and do create backup, or from the backup tab you can use the two local storage option, or if you're using Amazon S3 or Azure, we'd also have cloud storage backup. So you select the site and choose the option for backup that you want to use. For this example, I'll just use the two local storage. You would give the backup a project name, and then you choose the location that you want to save the local backup to. For this instance, I'll just say C drive backup. Then you would verify that this is the URL that you want to save the backup from. We also have the OneDrive for Business option as well by selecting the drop-down menu. The backup options that we have for this specific backup is we include subsites, permissions, list views, content, and versions. You can choose whether you want all versions or the most recent versions. And then you can set up how many of recent versions that you want. We do have the option for send notification when it's finished, but that has to be set up through our help profile manager. And you can use these help bubbles on the side here throughout all of our wizards to get a little bit more information about the option. Now to set our retention policy settings, you can either leave these unchecked to keep all of your backups and incrementals, or you can check them to set how many days that you want the backups or incrementals to stay. The Metavis tool has an automatic retention policy check that every time the tool starts, it will automatically check through and see if there's any backups or incrementals that are past the retention policy. So from here you have two options. You can either click Finish to run a one-time full backup, or you can use the Schedule button to create a schedule for future backups. For this option, we'll go through the schedule, and it will bring up the wizard for the Windows Task Scheduler. The reason why we use Windows Task Scheduler is because the Metavis tool does not run unless the tool is open. So we need something to run the script while the Metavis tool is closed or the user is not logged in. Now this schedule wizard is the same throughout the entire tool, and I'll show you the steps to go through this. You can either select a one-time full backup, daily, weekly, or monthly full backup. So for this example, I'll just choose the weekly backup, and we'll hit Next. You'll set the start time and the start date that you want the backup to run. You can select whether you want it to run every week, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, or so on and so forth. Then you select the days that you want the full backup to run. So you'll select, in most cases it's Friday, so you want to run the backup over the weekend. But you can select as many days as you want. Just make sure that the backup does not overlap each other, because that could cause issues with connecting or overflowing your RAM. So then you would choose those settings, you hit Next, and you get a summary of what the options that you chose. Then, as you click Finish, Windows Task Scheduler will automatically open. Under the Task Scheduler library in the top left, you will see a Metavis Tasks folder. In the Metavis Tasks folder is all the jobs that you've created through the Schedule wizard. Within each job, you can go to Properties and look at the internal properties of that scheduled job. In the Triggers tab, you'll be able to edit the schedule that you have previously created. In the Actions tab, you'll be able to go into Edit and view the script from within the tool. Now, we do encrypt the password for all the users. What may be useful is if your password ever changes from your Office 365 account or your Active Directory account, you can change the password within the script here. And we do have a password encryptor built in with the tool, and that would be located in the Help ribbon in Profile Manager. We have a password encryptor here. So you'll put in your password twice and then hit encrypt, and it'll create your password encryption for you. So you can copy it from here and go back into the task scheduler and paste it into your script. Now you can copy this out to a notepad just so it's easier to read, and then paste the entire script back into the add arguments section. And we do have the conditions and settings tabs, which are basic settings from the Windows scheduled tasks. You can either have the option to restart the backup if the machine restarts, or if there's some kind of timeout issue. Now in the General tab, depending on how you're logged into the machine, whether it's a local machine or a VM or server, we usually suggest to have these settings changed a little bit. So we uncheck the Do Not Store Password to store the password, just so there's no issues with the saving of any temporary files that we create during the backup process, and then the Run with Highest Privileges, just to make sure that there is no permissions issues if it's not a local administrator. So from here you would hit OK, and it would ask you to put in the password of that local user. Now we'll go back to the tool. After the first the backup is created, a backup project will be in the Backup Navigator. Then you can drill down into it and see your timestamps. Now, as the timestamps run, whether you have full or incrementals, it will say full or incremental next to the timestamp. If it is blank, then you'll know that there was an issue with the backup. Now, you can drill down into these timestamps just as you do in the Navigator and view all lists, libraries, subsites, and their libraries and subsites. And you can drill down into the libraries themselves by double-clicking. So this can show the items within the backup. Now say that we want to restore this file here. So you can either select it and in the backup ribbon use the To Original Location Restore button, or you can right-click and choose the Restore button. You also have the ability to show folder, and what that'll do is it'll open up the local backup folder to show the actual content within the backup. We do not encrypt the files during the backup, so you will be able to see full files and open them. And that is useful in the case of if somebody wants an older version of the file. When we do the backup, it'll create each version as its own file and put the version number next to the file name. So you'll be able to go into each version and decide which one you want to restore. You can use the Windows features of selection, so you can click once to select, hold Control to select multiple, or Control A to select all. And you can use the To Original Location, or like I said, you can right-click and hit Restore. Then it'll give you the option to include all versions or include most recent versions. If you only want the last version to restore, then you just put in a 1. If this option will only be available if you select to backup versions within your scheduled backup, and then once you hit OK, it'll start the process for restoring those files. Now it will overwrite what is there, so it's not going to create a secondary file. It will overwrite what is there. Now to schedule an incremental, all you have to do is go back to the project folder, right-click, and hit Update. Now you have the options to create a secondary full backup, incremental backup, differential backup, or custom filter update. You can get a little bit more information, like I said, from these help bubbles, just so you know a little bit more about the option. And from here, you can also change the retention policy that you created during your schedule. Now, from here, you can either run the incremental one time and click Finish, or you can hit Schedule and use the same wizard that we used to create the full backup. Now, it will create a second job within Windows Task Scheduler to run independently of the full. And then that's when you'll get excuse me, the incremental next to the timestamp, so you'll know which is the difference between the full and the incrementals. Now you can also change the retention policy if you right-click on the project and it has the changed retention policy. We also have the properties section now that we've recently put in. We also have the ability to search within a project. So as long as you've selected the project, you can go into the enter value to search and backup and type in a file name that you are specifically looking for, and it can search through all the timestamps that you have within that backup project. Depending on the size of your backup project, when you right click and go to properties, it may take a little bit of time for it to pull up. So at this time, I will open up for any questioning. Okay, the first question I have was, what happens if the connection drops during the backup? There will be an error within the backup, so anything will be restarted at the next scheduled time. Now, if the connection drops due to the server restarting, then the backup, as long as you have those settings set up within Windows Task Scheduler, will automatically restart, but it'll create a new timestamp. It will not pick up from where it left off. The next question was, will the full backup or incremental lock the site collection during backup? No, it will not. The site will run as long as the only time that may be an issue is if you're running the tool on the machine that is running the on-premise. If it's an Office 365 backup, then it will not have any impact on the actual site. The next question, what information is available for the backup that had issues? We do have an internal log that is built. You can also, if you take a look at the screen, there's a logs viewer that you can click into, and you can go to history, and this will show the last backups that you have. So you can go into the backup that you know the timestamp was errored, and you can double click into it and load the backup. Now you can go through and see if there's any successful or any errors. As you can see, there's one failed item in this, and you can sort it through that option right here. So you can see the failed item. Now, obviously, if it's an error that you did not recognize, you can use the content support option within the help ribbon to create a case and send us that error message along with the logs, and we'll be able to help you with that issue. The next question I had was, can you back up to another server versus the C drive that Metavis is on? We do suggest that it is the local hard drive. It can be a D drive or a removable drive that is connected to the machine. The reason why we suggest that is if there are any network drives that is connected to that is on another server, if there's any kind of internal errors or latency that may cause issues with the backup and cause errors. The next question I have is, can you please go more into detail about the management of passwords through the password manager? The password manager that we have is within the profile manager in the help ribbon. Now what this is you can create, you can put in a password here that'll apply to all of your connections. So as long as you're connecting through all of the same sites, you can put your password manager in through here, and you can store the passwords. Now, when you go in and you put in your credentials, there's a little key next to the username box and all the credentials when you're connecting to a site or refreshing a site, and you can store the password from within there. As I referred to in the question a couple before, we would rather it be on a local hard drive. You can set it to a path, but like I said, there could be some issues with internal network latency that could cause issues with the backup, and that's just not something we suggest during the normal backup. Next question I have. Metavis was recently purchased by Metalogics. Is the tool going to be replaced by the Metalogics tool? As for right now, anything spoken by all parties has been that this product will stay as one of the platforms that Metalogics is using, and that is at this time. There's no future plan as of right now to completely close out this platform that has been known to us. So at this time, this is the platform that will stay, as well as the Metavis platform in general. Next question I have. We have two SharePoint environments. One is Cloud 0365 and on-premise. Can we run the two backups at the same time? Yes, multiple jobs can be run at the same time. We just suggest not within the same site collection. So if you're running on different environments, whether one is on-prem and one is 0365, that shouldn't be a problem. The only suggestion I would have is to make sure that the machine that you're running the backups on has a good deal of RAM allocated to the software. The reasoning is because if there's a lot of data that is moving through these backups, it could cause issues with RAM space on the machine. So depending on how much RAM you have on the machine, we may suggest to increase on the actual machine or just increase the allocation depending on how much you already have. Next question I have is, do the backups count against the size of the migration size plan we purchased? It does not. The transfer rate, transfer size that you've purchased with the tool is not affected by the backups. So all the backups, because normally you would the plan that you purchased is a little bit more than the size of the environment that you have. Obviously, you're going to be backing up multiple times, either your full environment or more. So we have made that that it does not affect the transfer size that you've purchased. Is there any more questions that you guys may have? Okay. Is the tool meant for smaller farms? We have 600 site collections and they come and go. Does this tool automatically find new site collections? I'm guessing no, that I would have to create a new task for each site collection. Now, as far as the backups go, it will, as long as the site that is new is underneath the top level that you're backing up, it will pick up the new site. As far as finding new sites within the projects that we have in the Navigator, all you would do is go to that top level site, right click, and use the refresh button, and it'll it'll research your environment and find all the sites that are below that site that you've clicked on. Now you can connect to your tenant level in O365 as well as your central administrator on-premise, so you can do that refresh process from there as well. The next question I have is, if we point to the tenant, do we still need to refresh? Yes, if you do have sites that are underneath, you will need to refresh to view them. But if it's within the backup, you will not have to do anything to the backup. It will pick up new sites below the tenant. There is one note I wanted to make in regards to the tenant backup. We do have that available, but it is a special license, and that would have to be worked out with our sales engineer, sales representative, whoever you're dealing with, and we may have to make that available to you on a person-by-person basis. Next question: If we remove our items from the left-hand navigator, will the site stay in the backup navigator? Yes, they're different projects. So the projects that are built in the navigator are different from the projects in the backup navigator. So if you remove a project from the navigator, it won't affect the backup that you've previously created. I just wouldn't delete the backup project locally. That will affect the backup. No, the tenant backup is not part of the Office 365 suite. That is something that is additional that will have to be worked out with your sales representative. Next question: I log onto the server with MetaVis, but authenticate by using my username password, and I'm unable to back up successfully through Task Scheduler. Now, the password that you use for your credentials to log into the actual site is what is used for the backup. Now, what I was explaining in the Task Scheduler for the actual to store the password, that is going to be your local username and password. So whatever you logged into the machine with. Now, the credentials that are in the script for the backup, they're going to be as you can see here, the username that you use to log into the site, and the password that you use to log into the site, not your local account. And the next question is, what level of rights does the user running the backup need to have? We suggest site collection administrator. That's just to ensure that there's no issues with any kind of the subsites or levels below that it may not have access to. But in order to connect to the sites, you really only need designer rights or higher. But we suggest site collection administrator for the backup. And okay, if there's no more questions at this time, we can end this webinar. If you do have any questions, you can send them through to support using the icon in the MetaVis tool in the help ribbon using contact support. We do also have a link to our user manual here, but you can go through the MetaLogix phone support as well to create a ticket or ask any questions. And thank you all for your time, and this This meeting will also be posted on the Metalogix website later on in this week if you want to go back and look over some things. Thank you. Have a nice day.